Whew. All right. First and foremost, I want to say, call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's all praise to the Most High God. The name of His only begotten Son of the world, ignorantly called Jesus Christ. And as y'all can see, y'all see the title, Are You Ready to Die? Right? This is a question a lot of Israelites should be asking themselves, especially as we inch closer and closer to prophecy being fulfilled, and certain prophecies have already been fulfilled, which is crazy, right? And really just counting the cost. That's really what this all boils down to: counting the cost and the cost of discipleship, like certain Christians will say, right? Because this is what inspired this lesson. Because I've been sitting on it for a little bit. What inspired this lesson is what Deacon said in his lesson, and like right before we did the Passover service. If you go watch the Passover video we did, he said something about, like, are you happy with your discography? Like, are you happy with the amount of work you put in all the way up until this point currently? And that kind of hit me because I looked at the channel. We just hit about 700 uploads, 3 million views. I'm not even just throwing this out to be carnal about it. It's just like I look at all that, is not enough. It's not enough. And then at the same time, I see that feeling like it's not enough. I also been thinking about like my own mortality as far as, okay, am I prepared for this happening? Am I prepared for that happening? Are you prepared to lose somebody? Are you prepared to be lost yourself? Like, are you prepared for things like this? Right? And these things are spin around my mind consistently, along with my family, along with my camp, the people who are under me, the people who depend on me, things like that, right? And it really boils down to is counting the cost of discipleship. So let's go into some precepts real quick. Let's share my screen. Ooh. Let's see what that looks like. All right, yeah, we're in there now. Yeah, we're in there now. All right, let's start right here in Luke chapter 14. It's even aptly named like discipleship tested. It says, Luke 14:25, it says, and there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, even his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Right? So when you see things like this, Christ isn't literally saying hate your people. That's against the law. What he's saying is, in comparison to serving the Father, it'll almost be like hatred towards them. You're not gonna let your father, your mother, or your father stop you from serving the Lord. You're not gonna let your reverence of your children cause you to go off. Like how people say, like, oh, we're just like, how, because Easter, right? They said we're just doing this for the kids, right? So you're just doing this to make your kids happy, right? But that's the sin that they're doing right now, is a sin worthy of death. You're doing that you're stumbling for your children. That's against this scripture, right? The reverence of your wife. Let's say your wife doesn't want to keep the laws and you just be subject. I've seen this actually. You end up being subject to your wife, and now you don't want to be a part of the truth no more because it upsets her, right? Brethren, sisters, even your own life, because you yourself want to do things. Like me, there's so many things I could have done and been farther in life, financially speaking, my lust speaking. And when I mean lust, I mean my wants, my desires, right? I'd be way farther in life if I wasn't somebody who followed the Lord and was a leader in that aspect, right? I could give all that up and then start doing this type thing, right? But I'm not going to do that because of my reverence to the Father and his Son. This is what Christ is talking about. Like, you can't be a disciple if you're going to compromise things like this, especially going into what we're about to go into with Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation, the MOB, right? The RFID chip is going to be out that anybody can get, and to where now you can eat, because there's going to be famines and there's going to be rations of food. People will act crazy. People go completely feral when all the things that keep them comfortable in America is taken away from them, right? When fear is instilled, when famine is instilled, when danger and doubt is instilled, masses can be easily controlled to bend to their will. And what's the will? Whose will are people bending to? The beast. When you give into the beast system, as far as its image, as far as the RFID chip, the mark of the beast is going to be out soon. That's coming real soon, right? If you give into that, you're going to die, right? The only people who is going to be able to escape that is those who confess the name of the Son and who are actually his disciples. Everybody who goes contrary to that, they're going to be subject to the beast system, put to death. That's what's going to happen. This is a little broader aspect of what Christ is talking about here. It says Luke 14, verse 27. It says, whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So if you're going to compromise for literally anything, any purpose, right, you can't be Christ's disciple, because he didn't. He was obedient. He was obedient all the way into his death, knew his mission, knew what the end result would be, and still did it. Right? So we looking at the prophecy, which I'm going to get a little bit later. We know what's going to happen, so we shouldn't fold that behind all those things. All right? Verse 28, it says, for which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, right? Counting the cost, whether ye have sufficient to finish it. Less happily, after he have laid the foundation, right? You know, people come in the truth for like a few days, few weeks, maybe even a year, and then just go back to the world. Lay the foundation and is not able to finish it. All that behold it began to mock him, right? All that behold began to mock. That's like you see your family members or some of your friends in the world, like they say, oh, you're not going to last in that night. And then you go back into the world. There's a hi, remember when you was in that Hebrew Israelite stuff? They'd be laughing at you, right? There's something that happened to me a few years into really about like my first year and a half into the truth. There's somebody I went to school with. He saw some of the posts I was making on the internet and on social media. And he said, how long are you going to be in that fad? Right? I'm just looking like, damn, like folks really just think it's a fad. Me coming into my nationality, letting you know what your nationality is, telling you what you need to do to get right with God. After I found it and tried to dispense it out to my people, you just call it a fad. That's somebody who will turn and laugh at you when you go back into the world. You will be an outright embarrassment, right? That's why when you come into this and you, while remaining in this, you have to continuously count the cost, man. Like you have to count that cost, because you don't want to be somebody who's mocked. And honestly, at the end result of that mocking, you may get the world. You may trade everything you want, get everything, trade your soul, right? The salvation of your soul for the world and get everything you could want. But at the end, once you get that money, once you get that power, when you get that influence, all those things are going to come to naught, because America is going to be destroyed. It's a consolation prize. You see Christ talking about that, hitting on that when he says that's their reward. That's gonna, yeah, you can forsake this, right, and get everything you want in the world, but that's going to be your reward for that short little time that America is going to rule, right? And that short little time you have all this power and all the things you want, it's all going to come to naught and be worthless, especially the dollar, especially that one, right? So let's go to verse. Where did I finish it? Oh, verse 30. Saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consulteth whether he's able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Like they don't just sit down, and if you're gonna go to war with somebody, you're not about to just out of spur moment, oh, just go, just don't even worry about don't do no type of reconnaissance, don't do any type of intel gathering, and then just attack these people. No, you're not going to do that. You would sit down and plan out how this is going to go. This is what Christ is talking about. Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an ambassage and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath cannot be my disciple. Right? You can't be Christ's disciple. And the only people who's going to be saved is those who confess the name of the Son. And those are his disciples. Right? So you have to count the cost in this. And you have to understand what counting the cost looks like. Right? Because that's what we're going to go into today. What counting the cost looks like. Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6. Because what we see in the Hellenistic time period when Israel is being Hellenized. Okay, when you see Israel being Hellenized, you see certain things happening, and you see certain things happening just like how they're supposed to happen in like Revelations 13, which we're going to get. Revelation 13, Revelation 12, the same things that happened to us where we got forced to become Greeks, right? We're going to go into that, and it's pretty much the same exact thing what we're going to go into in this time period, and we're going to prove it. This is 2 Maccabees 6, verse 1. I'm just going to read down. It says the Jews are persecuted because of their faith. It says, not long after that, the king sent an elderly Athenian to force the Jews to abandon their religion and the customs of their ancestors. He was also to defile their temple by dedicating it to the Olympian god Zeus. How evil that's crazy. It says the temple of Mount Gerizim was to be officially named Temple of Zeus, the god of hospitality, as the people who lived there had requested. The opposition was harsh and almost intolerable, because that is intolerable, especially when we read going into the next verse what they're going to be doing. It says Gentiles filled the temple with drinking parties and all sorts of immorality. They even had intercourse with prostitutes there. Crazy. In the temple. Crazy. It says forbidden objects were brought into the temple, and the altar was covered with detestable sacrifices prohibited by the law, like swine and pork. They're putting that on the altar. That's crazy. And these are the people, sidebar, bro. And these are the people that y'all want to save, bro. This is the Edomites you want to save. You Israelites who want to be Christians so bad. Well, right here, 6 is the part I wanted to make. It says it was impossible to observe the Sabbath, to celebrate any of the traditional festivals, or even so much as admit to being a Jew. So back during the Hellenistic time period, when we were Hellenized by the Grecians, we couldn't call ourselves Jews. We couldn't keep the Sabbath days. We couldn't keep the traditional feasts, basically the things in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. All those things due to the government that was presiding over us. And that same thing is going to happen to us here in America. Let's go to that. During Jacob's trouble, Revelations 13, verse 11, it says, and I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. This is America, that little horn that you see in Daniel chapter 7. And it says another beast because this original beast is the Roman Empire, right? So going back to verse 11, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, right? He exercises, and that this is going into the Senate, like the 2 horns, like you have the Republicans, Democrats, right? And speak as like a lamb, right? But he spake, he's 2 horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon, because they talk about all these peaceable things. They want to come up with all these laws and to act like they're such a just society, but they're really not. That's why it says speak as a dragon. As he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, right? That first beast before him was the Roman Empire. Where does the Roman Empire get their power from? Let's read it. Revelation 13, verse 1 is, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Revised Roman Empire, Esau just in general. It says, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon, which is Satan, gave him his power and his seat and great authority, right? That's who gave the ancient revised Roman Empire their authority. And this second beast, which is America, exercises all that same power that they got from Satan through their white supremacy. That's what this is. And it says he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed, right? How was Rome's deadly wound healed? When they came back in the Renaissance era. Renaissance meaning, I believe that's rebirth. Their little rebirth. That's their deadly wound that was healed, right? Because they had fell in power and lost a little bit. Like, just, we all know about the fall of Rome. Anybody can Google that, right? But they came back into power in the Renaissance era. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven and on the earth in the sight of men. We see that in Nagasaki, Hiroshima, right? America dropped the bombs, virtually ending the war, right? And now it's going into what I was talking about, as far as we're gonna see us trying to be forced to become pagans and like the Europeans. You see this in verse 14 going all the way into 16. It says, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image, right? An image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live, right? So the image of the beast. A lot of Israelites, when they try to break this down and talk about it's Caesar Borgia, that cannot be, because you cannot believe the second beast is America, and then the image comes from that second beast. The Caesar Borgia image was Roman time, so that's impossible for that to be Caesar Borgia. But honestly, Caesar Borgia is part of it, right? Because this image is going into the like a, not really like a physical likeness, but like you can say metaphorical likeness. Just like how people are going to be conformed to the image of the Son. That doesn't mean everybody's going to look like Christ, but you're going to be doing the same works as he is. You see that when we look at this word for image right here. I always go into this. It's icon, right? It's his image, figure, likeness of, right? And it says that it's one of the usages is use of the moral likeness of renewed men to God, right? And we see this being reflected in Romans, Romans 8:29, where it says, "For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of the Son." We know that's everybody's not about to look like Yahushua. So you're going to have the same moral likeness as Yahushua. That's the elect right here. So when you see this word used right here for image in Revelations 13, you're going to be morally like the beast. What's the beast? America. You're going to have that white supremacist ideology as far as America's the great, the land of the free, white Christianity. All these things revolve around the image of the beast. That's what that is, right? So understanding that, when we go back to Revelations 13, verse 14, and going down, let's just read it again. And deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, and which had the wound by the sword and did live, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This is the same thing that has happened to us in the Hellenistic time period. When we didn't want to conform ourselves to the ways of the Grecians, you get put to death. This is the same thing that's going to happen in America to the Israelites. And knowing this, we have to count the cost and be like, do I want to be a part of this? Because I know this is going to happen one day. Because a lot of people during that day, that's when fringes are going to get tucked in their pants, man. Or they're going to give up. Or they're going to just go back to eating Baconators in the Christian church. That's what's going to happen with a lot of people. Because this is the Lord's not about to have something. He's not about to command something and it not happen. Just like how it happened to us in Greece. When Greece did what they were going to do to us, the same thing is going to happen to us when America starts doing this. When they start making Hebrew Israelites enemy number one, we look like terrorists. That's what they're going to attempt to do to us. That's what's going to happen. That's a reality that we're going to have to now try to rationalize. One day you're going to be looked at as a terrorist. That's what the Bible is telling us. So going back into Maccabees, we have to know this. We have to know that we've seen this before. We've seen this play out, and we see it's going to happen in the future. So we have to count the cost and realize that's going to happen one day. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to die for what you believe in? Are you prepared to continue to keep the laws even at the cost of your own life? Are you prepared to die? That's what this lesson's about. This isn't counting the cost of discipleship. This is what you're in. This thing of ours that we're in. Because I've come to realize a lot of Israelites don't really believe in the Bible, bro. And I mean practicing Israelites don't believe in the Bible. By the way, the way they don't keep a lot of the moral. I'm not even trying to go off on a tangent, but the moral laws, like not being talebearers, not raising up false witnesses on people, raising up false reports on people, things like that. And when I see that, I'm just looking like, you operate in that spirit, I don't see how you're going to make it in the end, to be honest. And the prophecies we're going to read later in this is going to prove that, right? So let's go back into this. 2 Maccabees 6, verse 6. It said, it was impossible to observe the Sabbath, to celebrate any of the traditional festivals, right? Same thing. Or even so much as to admit to being a Jew. That's the same thing we saw in Revelation, the 13th chapter, that's going to happen to us in this time period. It says, each month when the king's birthday was celebrated, the Jews were compelled by brute force to eat the intestines of sacrificial animals. Then during the festival in honor of the wine god Dionysus, I'm pretty sure Dionysus, I guess, right? Whatever, however the pagan you say it, right? It says, they were required to wear ivy wreaths on their heads and march in procession. On the advice of Ptolemy, the neighboring Greek cities were also instructed to require Jews to eat the sacrifices. They were told to put to death every Jew who refused to adopt the Greek way of life. You see that? That's not conforming to the image of the beast. That's Revelation, the 13th chapter. We've seen that, and we see it. We've seen it happening in the past, and we see it's going to happen to us in the future, right? It says it was easy to see that hard times were ahead, right? And we even see that for us now. It's easy to see hard times are going to be ahead. We already see the gas prices freaking going nuts, right? We see going to the grocery store. You put 2 items in your cart, you're already at $70, right? That's where we at. I live in Texas. I live in Texas right now, Dallas, Texas. Texas always had like one of the better economies where as far as like food, transport, pretty much anything, right? The prices I've seen, like even gas is like $3.40 now. I remember all my life gas in Texas been like $1.12, $1.20, and then it's a sad day. It's a sad day in Texas where gas is $3.39. But it's a reflection of the way the economy is going right now in totality of America. It's going down the drain, right? Tough times are ahead for us. And we see that prophetically happening to us. It says, for example, 2 women were arrested for having their babies circumcised. They were paraded around the city with their babies hung from their breast. Then they were thrown down from the city wall. On another occasion, Philip was told that some Jews had gathered in a nearby cave to observe the Sabbath in secret. Philip attacked and burned all of them alive. They had such respect for the Sabbath that they would not fight to defend themselves. You see that? They had such respect for the Sabbath. Like, look, like if you're going to kill us, go ahead and kill us. We're not about to break the Sabbath at the cost of their own lives. Are you prepared to die, man? Are you ready to die? That's what this lesson is going into. We're not about to just read this. Oh, that happened back in the day. That archaic ritual of just doing things like this. No, we're going to see this in the future, right? Verse 12. I beg you not to become discouraged as you read about the terrible things that happened. Consider that this was the Lord's way of punishing his people, not of destroying them. In fact, it is a sign of kindness to punish a person immediately for his sins rather than wait a long time. The Lord does not treat us as he does other nations, he waits patiently until they have become deeply involved in sin before he punishes them. Right? He gives us a level of grace. Right? He don't deal with the other nations like that, and that's evident. But why? Because the Lord don't care about the other nations, even though you Hebrews like Christians want to save the Gentiles. Right? It says, but he punishes us before we've sinned too much. So the Lord is always merciful to us, his own people. Although he punishes us with disasters, he never abandons us, right? And that goes into your faith. That you're going to see that happen to a lot of people's faith is going to end up crushed the end times. You might be going through disasters. We're going through disasters now just off of the curses, man. Our life hangs in doubt no matter what, right? So, and knowing that he's never abandoned us. He's always, just like in Paul says, he's always giving you a way of escape. Verse 17. I have made these. I didn't even finish my thought on that. He always gave us a way of escape, so we shouldn't lose faith and give in to the world and become like everybody else, and then start sinning and forsake the law. Right? The Lord's always going to, as long as you be with him, he will be with. Matter of fact, let me find that. I haven't pulled that scripture. I think that's 2 Chronicles. It's something. I think it's this one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was 2 Chronicles 15:2. I'll do KJV. It says, and he went out to meet Asa and said unto him, hear ye me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you while ye be with him. And if ye seek him, he will be found of you. But if ye forsake him, he will forsake you. And that's how a lot of our people are. This is how faith has been tested. You go through disasters, you go through tough times, and as long as you be with the Lord and stay with him until death, he will reward you. He will never forsake you. But a lot of people will easily forsake the Lord in any type of tribulation whatsoever. Right? That's people who don't actually have faith. But as long as you be with the Lord, he will be with you. So let's go back to this in 2 Maccabees. Verse 17. I have made these few observations by way of reminder. We will now get on with the story, right? Verse 18. There was an elderly and highly respected teacher of the law by the name of Eleazar, whose mouth was being forced open to make him eat pork. But he preferred an honorable death rather than a life of disgrace. Right? What's that life of disgrace? People mocking you for going back. That's what that life of disgrace is. And you living in a life of disgrace towards your heavenly Father and his Son. That's what that life of disgrace is. He has so much reverence for the Lord that he would like to just get killed for it, get killed for what he believed in and dying for his belief system instead of just eating that pork for that moment to save his pitiful life. That's the level of faith that we need to be rocking in going into the end of this. Because the thing is, not all of us are going to die. Even Paul says, like, not all of us are going to sleep. But those who do sleep are going to arise first when Christ comes back. Right? I don't know what's going on with me today. But where was that? I'm going to read that again. But he preferred an honorable death rather than a life of disgrace. So he spit out the meat and went willingly to the place of torture, showing how people should have courage to refuse unclean food, even if it cost them their lives. Or this is why I think chapters like this is not in the Christians' canonized version of the Bible, right? Because if you read something like this and then go into the New Testament as far as like Paul's writings, right? You're not gonna come to the conclusion that pork is done away with. You're not about to see stuff like this and then now believe that means what you think it believes. What you believe it means opposite of what Paul is teaching, right? That shit is not about to happen. Where's we at? Verse 21. It says, those in charge of the sacrifice had been friends of Eleazar for a long time. And because of this friendship, they told him privately to bring meat that was lawful for him to eat. He need only pretend to eat the pork, they said, and in this way he would not be put to death. Right? He said, but Eleazar, right, because I was going to try to explain that, but the next verse does it better. It's, but Eleazar made a decision worthy of his gray hair and advanced age. All his life, he had lived in perfect obedience to God's holy laws. So he replied, kill me here and now. Right? Are you prepared to die? It says, such deception is not worthy of a man of my years. Many young people would think that I had denied the faith after I was 90 years old if I pretended to eat this meat just to live a little while longer. It would bring shame and disgrace on me and lead many young people astray. This is going into that mocking they talked about in Luke chapter 14. Right? Because not only will you be mocked for that, like you did all that just to live a little bit longer, but also it will set a bad example and lead a lot of people astray. That's what would happen if he did that, right? That's why he said, "Kill me here and now. Just let's get it over with, bro. I'm not compromising." And this is how we need to be. Because Christians, it'd be funny. A lot of words that I hear Christians use, that would be great for the truth if they actually did it. Like being uncompromising. Christians compromise for everything, but that's how we need to be, right? Like revivals. A lot of our people need to be revived. All these things, all these Christianized ideologies they use, that's something we actually should be doing as people who actually are in this faith. But the key one I want to harp on is being uncompromisable, right? It says, where was we at? Verse 26. No, 26, yeah. It says, for the present, I may be able to escape what you could do to me, but whether I live or die, I cannot escape Almighty God. And that'd be the thing. Who do you fear? Right? Because if you compromise when your life is in danger, you cannot be a disciple of Mashiach Yahushua. You got to bear your own cross. Because what did Christ do when he buried his cross? He got put to death. So some of us will be put in a position where you have to choose. And which one are you going to choose? Because you can't escape God. Who are you going to fear? That man with an axe in his hand? Or are you going to fear God? Do you want the second death? Or you want to die here and get that crown? I'm going to take the crown to the best of my ability. That's what I'm going to do. As long as the Lord keeps me in this, right? Because it's not my decision, it's his. Verse 27, if I die bravely now, it will show that I deserved my long life. It will also set a good example of the way young people should be willing and glad to die for our sacred and respected laws, right? And that's how we should be, right? Because our laws, let's get this, that the Lord gave us is his will. Right? Psalms 40 verse 8 is, I delight to do thy will, oh my God, yea, thy law is within my heart, right? His will, the Lord's will, literally his words and how he wants us to operate on this earth that he gave to the Israelites is his will, right? So we should be willing to die for the Lord. That's what we should be. That's the example that Eleazar left, right? Where's it? I'm reading 28 again. It will also set a good example of the way young people should be willing and glad to die for our sacred and respected laws. As soon as he said these things, he went off to be tortured, and the very people who had treated him kindly a few minutes before now turned against him because they thought he had spoken like a madman, right? When they had beaten him almost to the point of death, he groaned and said, the Lord possesses all holy knowledge. He knows I could have escaped these terrible sufferings and death, Yet he also knows that I gladly suffer these things because I fear him. That's the cost of discipleship, fearing the Lord. Don't not just compromise it because you can save your life or save your skin here. Because the Lord's going to note that down, like, yep, that's not one of my people. I'm going to have him put to death. And on top of that, he's going to get the second death. That's what's going to happen, right? Verse 31. So Eleazar died, but his courageous death was remembered as a glorious example, not only by young people, but by the entire nation as well. And that's why we talk about it to this day. That's how we need to be. There's so many examples in the Bible of people dying for what they believe in and not compromising towards the law. You see that with Eleazar, right? You see that with the prophets. You see that with Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth. You see that with and most one of the most important ones, Hamashiach Yahushai. Right? He was I bring that scripture out all the time. He was our example that we can live righteous lives without compromising. And there's plenty before him, like which I just named. So to come to the conclusion that you gotta the law is done away with in the New Testament, that's craziness. We have too many examples of things outside of that contradict that ideology. But things like going back into the previous point, are you ready to die? Is that the cost you've counted? Because a lot of Hebrew Israelites get caught up in the pageantry. They try to make it a fad and think it's like a cool thing. A lot of people just try to look cool for. I've seen it. People try to look cool for women, like how they do all the time, bro. You know how Jake, especially Judah. You know how Judah do, bro. They try to learn any little fact. They try to look cool for women. But the thing is, what are you going to do when that pressure get put on, man? What is your faith going to be when it comes down to where you can get put in jail for what you believe in? Because we see that in Revelations 2 verse 10. It says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer, right? Just like our Eleazar did. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison that ye may be tried, right? Our temptation. It says, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, right? Faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. That's what we need to be. That's what we need to be thinking about, right? It says it'll cast some of you into prison. That's not going to happen to all of us, but you have to mentally prepare yourself and count the cost to be like, this could be something that happens to me. I have to, bro, like being somebody. And I'm not even about to say I'm deep, bro. Being somebody who's read these scriptures for a certain amount of years, the ones we've just read in Second Maccabees, Revelation 2, Revelation 13, Jeremiah 30, all the various scriptures about what's going to happen to Babylon. Reading this for years, bro, you have to really come to the conclusion to where like your life is going to be solely your existence. Your existence during that time is going to be solely based on the preservation of the Lord, right? And it's going to be completely judged off of your faith and your works. Because let's go back to 2nd Ezra. I'm gonna have to type that in. I'm gonna type that in because I already got some. I don't want to drop these tabs. 2nd Ezra. Is that 9? This is 9. That might be 9. I'm pretty sure it's 9. Yeah, let's go ahead and read. Let's start at verse 7. It says, oh, wait a minute. I could go into that, but I'm just gonna get to the point. 2nd Ezra 9 verse 7 KJV. It says, and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, right, shall be preserved. That's why I say your preservation, because salvation, it's used in different ways. Salvation means your enemies being destroyed. That's one of them. You being moved from another place, from a disastrous situation where the curse is into the blessings. That's another one. And preservation, right? Because you see, what is that? In Revelation, I think it's 21 and 22. It talks about the nations that are saved, right? Because Christians will try to use that and say, "Oh, see, those nations could be saved." But a definition of salvation, even in the Greek, means preservation, like being preserved, like not having the taste of what's going to happen in this current moment, right? That's why it says shall be, verse 8, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning, the elect, like how we read in Romans 8 and 29. Right, that's something that's going to happen. So the only way you're going to make it through all the things that, like, the thing that's going to happen, if you're not somebody who's going to be chosen to be a martyr, right? You're going to be saved from your works. And honestly, no, either the martyr too, right? Because example of his faith and his works is staying faithful and remaining faithful all the way into his death. That's why when you see in Revelations 2, it says, "Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life." Right? That crown of life is being one of the first fruits of the kingdom. Verse 11: He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. Right? Because you're going to be the first fruits of the kingdom. Everybody outside of that, the person who gives up, the person who's not keeping the law, the heathen, all of them are going to taste of the second death. That's what has to happen, right? But the only people who are going to escape that are those who have faith and works. You also see that in Revelation 14, verse 12. Where are we going to now? Let's go to 2nd Esdras. Getting the GNT, because I like the GNT. Right. Let's see, where did I write down? 2nd Esdras 16, verse 68. Right, because we're going into this time period of Jacob's trouble. It says a vast mob, 2nd Ezra 16, verse 68, going down. It's a vast mob of people is ready now to descend on you and devour you like flames. They will drag some of you, right? Because that's what's going to happen. They will drag some of you off and force you to eat pagan sacrifices. We've seen that happen to us in when Greece did it in the Hellenistic time period, and we're going to see it happen to us now. Right, that's going to happen. Some of us are going to have to deal with that, right? And some of us are unfortunately going to have to be martyrs and give up their life. That's the cost of discipleship. Are you ready to die? That's what this lesson is about. Are you ready? Are you ready for things like this? Verse 69 says, "If you give in to them, they will ridicule, mock you, and humiliate you. In many places near the cities, there will be violent persecution against those who fear the Lord," right? Violent persecution on those who fear the Lord. Are you prepared for that violent persecution? Are you prepared to lose a child? Are you prepared to lose your mother? Are you prepared to lose your wife? That's things you have to deal with, man. That's counting the cost of being in this truth. Everybody wants to put on a nice garment. Everybody wants to just have the nicest hair wraps, have the nicest ceremonies. But like, there's another side to this. There's another side to this that you always have to keep in the back of your mind. Is like, dang, man, there's gonna come a time where my faith is really tried. People folding now. People folding now and issues. I saw who asked that question, man? What was that at? When Chief did the post debate reaction, somebody had asked Chief a question. What do you do when you're feeling like giving up? And Chief said, like, I don't even know how to answer that because I never feel like giving up, right? Because you like giving up now is folding now. I couldn't imagine folding right now before all this is gonna happen. Like, people who ask questions like that, I don't think you're gonna be able to make it in the end times, man. Because all the stuff that I'm reading and going to continue to read is a lot harder than you going through everyday life and somebody laughing at you for having fringes on, or your ability to keep the laws. It's going to be a lot harder than that. And that's something, that's a cost that, like, that's somebody who asked that question is somebody I don't believe is truly counted the cost, right? Because you got to know that the thing we're in could end up inevitably killing you, bro. but giving you life at the same time. So let's go back into this. In many places near the cities, there will be a violent persecution against those who fear the Lord. The attackers will act like wild people. They will plunder and destroy without pity all those who fear the Lord, right? And you know why they're going to be acting like wild people? Because famines are going to be going on. You remember during the I don't know if I can say those words. I'm not trying to YouTube. How do I say that? We went through in 2020 through 2022, right? The disease and stuff that was going on back then. Y'all remember what Walmart, HEB, Tom's Thumb, all those grocery stores look like? Famines. Imagine that, but worse. That's what's going to cause a lot of people to act real feral. Like how you see on The Walking Dead, people killing humans. That's what's going to happen in the future, right? That's why they're going to be acting like wild beasts at that time. Let's see. It says they will turn them out of their homes and take away all their possessions. This will be the time of testing for my chosen people, and they will prove to be as pure as refined gold. Right? That's going to be crazy. That's when the Lord's chosen is going to be shown at that point, when you got to go through things like that, man. So let's go into some more of that. Let's go back a chapter. Start at verse 2nd Ezra 15, verse 14, G&T. We're going to go all the way down to 27. It says, this one, I like when Sai brings this verse out, right? It says, the world and the people in it are doomed. What a sentence. What a sentence, right? It says, the war that will bring their destruction is very near. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations, right? And when you see the word nation being used in the Bible, a lot of people just say, okay, that's just about world wars. And you will be correct, right? Because we see world wars in Revelations, what Christ's words, and I believe that's Matthew, the 24th chapter, things like that, right? But one of the main uses of the word nation is going into race wars. We're going to see that. That's something that's biblical. So you see that, you see Christ saying that. Let's just go to Matthew 24 to prove that. Yeah, Matthew 24, verse 7, it says, for nation shall rise against nation, right? Nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There's a separation and a juxtaposition between nation and kingdom, right? These kingdoms fighting against each other. These are their rulerships, like America against Russia. That's kingdom against kingdom. But nation against nation, that's a race. That's ethnicities. That's where you even get the word ethnicity from, ethnos, right? Tribes, people, right? Multitude of individuals, the same genus or nature, right? It says a tribe, nation, people group, right? It's used a lot of different ways, but mostly as far as like a race. Just like how you see in, what's that, 2 Peter 2, verse 9. I pulled this on a Christian the other day. Let me see. Right, it says like it's 1 Peter. 1 Peter 2 and 9. This is, be ye a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, right? A particular people. So it says holy nation. This is in regards to Israelites. Other translations translate this as race. Which one? Special. It might be the G&T that does that, actually. Oh, RSV does it, but you are a chosen race, right? Because ethnos is there. When you look at the word for nation, ethnos is there, right? The same way we used it before. So it could mean race. So what we're going to see is race wars. That's what Yahweh said. That's what is being said right here in 2nd Ezra. So going back into this, it says nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations, and there will be great political turmoil. We see this happening already. Great political turmoil, with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. right? Militias being formed to overthrow the government. We see that. What was that? January the 5th, January the 6th. I forgot which one. Right when those saltines, I know y'all probably seen that meme when them saltines descended upon the Capitol. Right. It's verse 17. It says, "There will no longer be free access to the cities. You know, see checkpoints, because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion where people live, driven by famine." Right, like I said before, that's going to happen. Driven by famine, terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. Right, that's what's going to happen. That's a cost we have to count, bro. This is what I mean. Like you just giving up your life for what you believe in, right? You remaining in this and enduring all those things, because if you don't endure these things, like going back into that Matthew real fast. If you don't endure all those things, you're not going to be saved. Because Christ said all this in Matthew the 24th chapter, right? Is you hear wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation. These are beginning of sorrow. They shall deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. Are you ready to die? It says, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Right? All these things are going to happen. But watch verse 13. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. You're going to have to endure all that. That's counting the cost. Everything he said right here is the cost that you're going to have to count. And those who endure through that, count the cost, go through it, be uncompromisable, those are the same people who are going to be saved. Right? So going back into 2nd Ezra, verse 20, God says, "I'm calling together all the kings of the earth to come from north, south, east, and west, to turn back and restore what they've taken. I will pay them back with the same harsh treatment that they have always given to my chosen people, saith the Lord." Right? The Lord says, it says, "And I will use my power, and there shall be no mercy for the sinners. I will put to death all who have murdered innocent people." Right? Because that's really the fulfillment of the gospel. Because in the fulfillment of the gospel, in Isaiah 61, right, it says, Isaiah 61 verse 2, is proclaimed the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. Right, and to pour unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes and oil of joy for mourning, so on and so on. Right, so the gospel, the fulfillment of the gospel, is the acceptable year of the Lord, salvation for us, like he's going to restore us, and the day of vengeance for the day of vengeance of our God, because they have offended. All these nations have offended the Lord by them putting us into captivity, them enslaving us, keeping us down at the bottom. They have to pay for what they've done. That's why the Lord's going to deal with them the way he does. Because Jeremiah 2 verse 3, Israel was holiness unto the Lord, and the first fruits of his increase, all that devour him shall offend. Who they're offending? The Lord. Evil shall come upon them, saith the Lord. So that's the way the nations offend the Lord. When they murder us, when they kill us, when they have us in the captivity, they've offended the Lord, and they have to pay for it. That's the type of God we serve. But a lot of Christians don't believe that. A lot of Christians just, when they say shuck and jive, man, just make it up as they go, just like a lot of Christianized Hebrew Israelites. It says, "I will use my power, and there will be no mercy for the sinners. I will put to death all who have murdered innocent people. My anger has become so fierce that fire has blazed out to burn up the foundations of the earth, and to burn up sinners like straw. Sinners who do not keep my commands are doomed, saith Yahweh." So our people, because right here before this, it talks about the nations being destroyed for what they've done to us. But God also follows it up with saying the sinners of our people have to die. Just like how you see in Amos 9, right? The sinners of my people must be killed by the sword. Amos 9 verse 10, "All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us." They think God's not going to do anything. That's what that's going into. So going back into 2nd Ezra, I'm going to read 24 again. Sinners who do not keep my commands are doomed, saith the Lord. I will have no mercy on them. Out of my sight, you rebels, do not defile my holy temple. God is aware of all those who sin against him, and he will hand them over to death and destruction. Terrible disasters have already come upon the world, and there is no escape. You have sinned against God, and he will not rescue you. Just like how you see in 2nd Ezra 9, where it says all those who are going to be saved are going to escape those said perils through their faith and their works. That's the only way you're going to make it, because the nations are already doomed. But our people have another requirement, or really just another requirement for our salvation. Well, honestly, right, because you're talking about salvation, it's only for Israel, right? Our requirement for our salvation is our faith and our works. The people who don't have that, they're going to perish with the nations. That's something that has to happen. But going all the way, starting at the top of this, shows you what's going to happen prior to that ultimate destruction, and we have to endure all that. That's counting the cost. You have to endure all of that. That's what Mashiach Yahushua said. So let's go to what else I got, right? 2nd Ezra. Let's do it right here. 2nd Ezra. Let's go to chapter 2. Okay, where we go? Okay, let's do this. 2nd Ezra 2 verse 40. It says, "Take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord." Because now we're going into that great multitude that you see in Revelations. Revelations the 9th chapter. Revelations the 7th chapter. Yeah. The 144 and the great multitude. Right, because it says right here, as white, they're clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Right. This is another precept you can use to prove that this great multitude right here is of many tribes and nations and kindreds of people and tongues. So that means anybody can be saved? No. Right. 2nd Ezra right here gives you a straight account of what's happening right here. And it's saying this is for Zion. Right. It says to take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord. The number of thy children whom thou longest for is fulfilled. Beseech the power of the Lord, that thy people, which have been called from the beginning, may be hallowed. I, Ezra, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praise Yahweh with songs. It says, oh shoot, a great people who I could not number. Right, that's the same thing it says in Revelation 7 verse 9. Right, that innumerable multitude. Right, same thing, same context. Let's see, verse 43. And in the midst of them there was a young man of high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he sat crowns. Right, it said, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. Right, this is the same thing that's happening right here in Revelation 7. Christ, this is about Mashiach Yahushua. It's even going to say it right here. Mashiach Yahushua is going to be placing these crowns on people who actually fulfilled the law. Right, because Christians say, "Oh, Christ fulfilled the law. We ain't got to keep it no more." It says right here, we are going to fulfill this law. The people who are going to be saved. I'm not numbering myself with that number, but I'm giving an example. Right. The people who are going to receive these crowns are going to keep this law and stay steadfast all the way into the end. They've counted the cost, withered the storm, and now they get the crown put upon them. So verse 44, so I asked the angel and said, "Sir, what are these?" He answered and said unto me, "These be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of God. Now are they crowned and receive palms." Same thing it says in Revelation, right? Where it says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb. The Lamb is the man of high stature that you see in verse 43. That's talking about Christ. Stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Right? The same thing. Where's we at? I'll read it again. Verse 46. It says, Then said I unto the angel, What person is it that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of God, Hamashiach Yahushua. That's the Lamb, whom they have confessed in the world. Right? And confessing him in the world is being his disciple. You cannot be his disciple without counting the cost and bearing your cross. Bearing your cross is going through all the things that we've talked about all the way up until this point. To bring you back to the same question that's titled about this. Are you prepared to die? Really die for what you believe in. Are you willing to die for the Son? Are you willing to die for the Father? Because if you have the Son, you have the Father. But if you don't have the Son, you don't have the Father also. So I'm going to read verse 47 again. It says, So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of God, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of Yahweh. Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way and tell my people what manner of things and how great wonders of Yahweh thy power thou have seen. Right? And he's doing this through this letter that he wrote, this book that he wrote. Right? But the point I wanted to make off of that, those who stand stiffly for the name of the Lord, standing stiffly for the name of the Lord is when they try to get you to forsake your God, to like make you celebrate pagan practices like pork, Easter, all these things that make you forsake your power. You stand stiffly with that and go to your death if they're going to kill you. Go to whatever punishment or tribulation you're going to go through, because that shows what side you're on. That shows the Father what side you're on. This is something that's coming to us real fast, man. We see BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, and China talking about them having a new currency. We see that happening. You know, NATO and the United States are going to get their own currency. You know what that's probably going to come out with? Though the mark of the beast. We already see Amazon going there. You can walk in the store, pick something up, and then leave. We're getting closer and closer and closer to a digital currency, which leads into the mark of the beast. And when that comes, everything's going to jump. That's when people's faith is going to be tested. Really. That's when houses are going to get turned out. That's when World War III is going to happen. That's when all that stuff is going to happen. That's all the catalyst to this. We're so close to it. And when we're in it, you will be put in positions where your life will be threatened for what you believe in. And are you prepared to die for what you believe in? That's what this lesson's about. Right? That's the cost we have to count. But going back into the second thing I said about this, are you happy with the amount of work are you happy with your discography, right? Are you happy with the amount of work that you put in? Myself, my camp, my leaders, all of us have put in a lot of work. And you know what, man? I don't feel like I've even done that. Right? I feel like there's more work to be done. That's why we've been doing a lot more as a camp here recently. Right? There's so much more we have to do. Because just like it said oh shoot, my bad. Oh, dang. Just like how Christ said in Matthew 24, verse 13, it says, But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. But after that, it says, And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So that has to happen. We have to push this work out so strong and with so much veracity and power, right? To where it's out there so we can make this end come. So we can make our salvation come. Because it's not going to happen until we get ourselves right, until we get our people right. We have to start bearing fruits. We have to start multiplying our talents which the Lord given us. Because he's given us He's given us a portion of the Spirit that we can use to multiply our talents, because he matter of fact, let's go into that, because he wants his interest. Yahweh wants his interest back, man. Shoot, the parable of 10 virgins really could go with this, but that's not what we're going to go into. We're going to go into the parable of the talents, right? Matthew 15, verse 14, this is, for the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, right? Now, breaking down this parable, he gave certain people a certain amount of abilities, somebody a lot, somebody a medium level, and somebody a little, right? That's why it says every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them another 5 talents, right? Because this is going into like money, basically getting more, using it, moving it up, flipping it, and getting more out of it, right? That's what we need to be doing with the ability that we have. Not everybody is the best speaker. Not everybody is the best precept puller. Not everybody is the best at reaching people in like a multitude of different ways, right? We all have different things. I don't feel like I'm the best speaker. I don't feel like I'm the best precept puller. But what I will do, what I'm going to do is multiply my talents, right? I'm going to do the best of my ability to not be the slothful servant, which we're going to read about. But this person who had the 5 talents, right? He multiplied it, right? And got 5 more talents, right? Well, really addition. But for us in this instance, right? Which goes to parable. Us in this instance, we're going to be multiplying our talents. Verse 17, this is, and likewise, he that had received 2, he also gained another 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoned with him. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought us another 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 more. Right? He did his job. Right? He maxed out his discography, man. He got 10 albums, right? They all platinums. Right? That's what he did with his ability. His Lord said unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of my Lord. Right? That's having that crown put upon you, being first fruits of the kingdom. It says, verse 22, he also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. Right? His Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Right? The profitable servants, the one that had 5, the one that had 2, right? Because not everybody has the same ability. Some people's better than others. Some people better speakers than others. Some people better at breaking down precepts than others, right? But they're still putting their brick in with their 2 talents, with their 1 talent, with their 3 talents, with their 5 talents, right? And as long as you continue in doing that all the way into the end, you can enter thou into the joy of thy Lord, right? So verse 24, the wicked servant. Verse 24, then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I know thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, King's English, man. There thou hast that is thine. It says, his Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant. And that's a lot of Hebrew Israelites, bro. That's a lot. That's the thing that be like, and that'd be the ones with I'm trying not to get off point. That'd be the ones with the biggest mouths on the internet. Like people, here it is. the Lord is woken you up to knowing you're Israelite, what tribe you're from, the ability to give a breakdown, right? At least Deuteronomy 28. And y'all don't do nothing. You sit at the house and want to complain about how we break our scriptures, how we put our brick in, like how we multiply our talents, like how the Lord told us to do. That's crazy, right? He did nothing. The slothful servant didn't do anything. Because like I said before, some people are good at doing everything. Some people are just good at just doing everything. Some people are good at just speaking. Some people are good at just precept. They have their talents. You have the amount of spirit that's been given unto you, right? And some people aren't fit for the whole we about to do camp thing. You know what you could do? You know what you can really do? How about you donate to somebody like that? Why don't you donate to somebody who's doing the work, right? Because I mean, like I said, I've seen this plenty of times, right? And I used to think opposite of this, but now I'm starting to think a lot of people are not fit to be a soldier for Christ. Some people are not fit to be an apostle and go and be sent out and do the works of Christ. Some people are just not fit to do that. But you know what you could do? You could teach people here and there. You could throw some bones here and there, right? Or you could donate and support the people who are trying to do that. And I don't mean just give Big Yachty a whole bunch of money, right? No, you like if you like SICARRI, you want to donate to SICARRI, donate to SICARRI. If you like IUIC, donate to IUIC. If you like HOI, if you like Sons of Thunder, if you like GMS, if you like all these camps, they've teaching you something. They're teaching you a lot of things, spiritual things. Help them carnally by supporting the movement so where they have the ability to go farther and do more for your edification and for our nation's edification. Like the stuff that we do isn't cheap. Like paying for internet ain't cheap. Getting certain webcams, certain mics is not cheap. Traveling because we were trying to travel to San Antonio, trying to go to Atlanta, trying to go to I want to hit Waco again. All this place, this stuff is not cheap, right? People have to take time off from their job, taking money out of their pockets to go teach their people in various locations, right? And it's not just SICARRI that does that. Everybody does that. So if you like that we do that, you can multiply your talents that way. Because Christ said, let me see, what is that? Let me see. This right here, Matthew 10:10-42. It says, and whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water. Wait, no, that's not what I wanted. This one. I knew it was right around there. Matthew 10:40 is he that receiveth you, receiveth me, and he that receiveth me, receiveth him that sent me. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet, shall receive a prophet's reward. And he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. Right? I don't think that's what I'm looking for. Is this what I'm looking for? Let me see. Maybe there's another translation. To receive prophets. This ain't what I'm looking for. I forgot, man. Y'all can drop it in the chat. There's one Christ said that you help a prophet, you will receive a reward too. But there's multiple places. That's not even the point I wanted to make on this either. But that's how you can multiply your talents. Do something, bro. Don't just do nothing. There's a lot of things you can do. Let me go back into this. Verse 26. His Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knowest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received my money with usury. Right? Because that's what Christ is going to expect. He's going to expect for you to multiply your talents. He's going to expect for you to have done something with the spirit he gave you to do so with. That's what the Lord, and you use that to stand stiffly for, how can you say you stand stiffly for the name of the Lord, but you're not doing anything to help the movement, to help you get out of captivity? Right? That's the slothful servant. And Christ is going to say, let's see what Christ says. Is take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which have 10 talents, right? For everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that have not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. You know what that is? That's the second death. That's the destruction. Right. So what we can take, and the wisdom we can take from this parable that Yahweh said, he expects you to do something. He expects you to work in some kind of way, as in hitting them airwaves, hitting them streets, doing something for your people, or at least supporting the people who are doing the work that you're afraid to do. Right? Do something. You can't just go into this and just think you're going to do nothing and the Lord's going to reward you for that. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. That's what I want to get from this. Counting the cost, or that's what I want to get through to the people in this lesson. Counting the cost, know what you're going to have to go through, and on top of that, while you're doing that, multiply your talents. Go ahead and do something. That's what you have to do, because this is what's required of you. Because here's the thing. This is Christ's words. Deuteronomy 10 verse 12. It says, and now Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good. Right? The Lord requires us to keep the commandments, knowing that we're Israelites. So going to Deuteronomy 18 verse 18, right? I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him, right? And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I required of him. So this is talking about Christ, right? This just lets you know that the things that he says, that is Torah. So interpreting the parable of the talents, you have to multiply them talents, man. You have to do this. He's going to require it of you if you don't do it. That's what he said in his parable, and that's what the Lord Yahweh said in his law, in his Torah. So you have to multiply your talents. You got to build up that discography, man. You got to build that. You got to build them records up in heaven. And you have to do that. That's something you have to do. And that's something that's like, you should never feel like you've done enough either, too. Because once you don't want to get complacent and then just think, oh, I've done enough so I can do it. No, hell no, right? Because what is that? You can never serve. Dang, what is that? I think that's in. What is that? That's in Apocrypha. I can't remember where it is, but you can never do enough, right? You can never, ever, ever do enough. So what you need to do is multiply your talents. Do what you need to do, right, to the best of your ability. Don't stop to keep that fire burning, and count the cost to whether you want to be in this or not, because there could come a time where your life is in danger, right, for what you believe in. And are you prepared to die for what you believe in? That's the question you should ask yourself. And it should be a resounding yes if you're willing to stay in this. But with that, I'm going to say, call halal Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai.